Stephen, have you had an opportunity to read the legislation or even bits of it?
Good evening, Vincent. Yeah, there were a few of us. The finance spokespeople were briefed by the Secretary General. We went through the legislation. Obviously, we've had absolutely no chance to read it in detail, to discuss with experts, with legal advisors, etc., the implications of this. I believe that one of the sections is probably unconstitutional. Obviously, I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but I believe the same issue applies as to the constitutional challenge, the promissory notes being taken by David Hall at the moment. It seems to me, based on the briefing, the short briefing we've had, that this is a very dangerous piece of legislation. I fully accept that if the government has been bounced into a quick liquidation, that there may be legislative protections that could be put in place this evening for when the courts open that protect some of the assets, about €16 billion worth of loan assets, which are essentially state-owned. However, to me, there are two very, very serious and dangerous pieces of this legislation, neither of which need to come through tonight under any circumstances. The first is, this legislation will transfer our debt, the promissory note debt, which is currently at about €28 billion, it will transfer it from a debt owed to IBRC to a debt owed to the European Central Bank via the Central Bank of Ireland. Now, the structure of the promissory notes, we are told, is not going to change just yet, but we do expect that will happen in time. Now, the 28 billion may not change just yet, but who you owe the money to matters a great deal in terms of political negotiations. And this evening, the Dáil, if the backbenchers, the government backbenchers toe the line, which I expect they will, the people of Ireland will no longer owe €28 billion to two dead banks. They will owe €28 billion to the European Central Bank. The European Central Bank is legally prohibited from writing any of that down. That's a very, very serious situation. The amount of debt doesn't change, but our ability to get any serious write-down on behalf of the Irish people, to my mind, essentially vanishes. The second piece, I believe it's section 17, gives the Minister power, with no Dáil oversight and no Dáil vote, to restructure the assets. In this case, what I'm concerned about is the promissory note. So here's what could happen. If this is voted through tonight, our debt to IBRC will be transferred to a debt to the European Central Bank. Minister Noonan, we then give him the legal authority to negotiate with Patrick Honohan and the ECB to say, look, we're going to change this 28 billion promissory note into, let's say, a 40-year bond. And critically, members of Dáil Éireann will not be allowed vote on that. That, to me, constitutes appropriation of public money. The Constitution is very clear that only members of Dáil Éireann can do that. So I think there's a good chance that this legislation will be unconstitutional. I think in the immediate term, in terms of the banking debt, in getting a substantial write-down of the banking debt, I think this is a very, very serious retrograde step, and I can see absolutely no reason whatsoever why this has to be voted through this evening.
Well, Enda Kenny has said, and people here in the studio have said, that there is a reason for voting on it this evening, and that is because if when the market's open tomorrow morning, the bonds, which are still in Anglo-Irish Bank, will fritter away, and we could be down by several billion were that to happen.
Yeah, so pass legislation that deals with that. There's absolutely no reason to pass this. This is very wide-ranging legislation. This is very serious economic, legal and constitutional issues. If we need to pass a small piece of emergency legislation this evening that gives full legal protection to the Irish assets, we can do that. This bill unnecessarily goes much, much further than that.
Okay, do you agree with that, Constance? Have you we expect to be able to go to Michael Noonan's speech at that time, unless there's a further adjournment. But before we do that, Stephen, can I go to Stephen again? Stephen, in your opinion, will the arrangement that has now been made with regard to the promissory notes make it easier for Ireland to exit the bailout agreement come the end of this year? This year it ends, isn't it? This year, yeah.
No, it will probably make it harder to do that. Obviously, there's no legal link between the Troika bailout and between paying the promissory notes. However, the markets have factored in on our bond yields the fact that we will get a deal. If they see, well, now it's going to the ECB, not entirely sure how they're going to get a deal, it's possible that our borrowing costs will go up. We had a very senior international financier recently saying, look, the Irish people need a very significant write-down on the promissory note. Why? Because you've got a bunch of people out there, Vincent, holding Irish sovereign debt. and they're saying, okay, there's no way that the Irish people are going to be able to pay all of this back. They appear to owe 28 billion euro to two dead banks, and they owe a bunch of money to us. How about they don't pay the money to the dead banks and they honour their real sovereign debt? So no, I think this will probably make it more difficult. Vincent, I have to run because we're about to start and I have to run into the chamber.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us. Do you agree with that?